Yep, and it's always been a matchup that Cassiopeia players have favored into the Ryze, so we're getting a bit of a throwback back to like Season 8, early Season 9 for these meta mid laners. And the Doinb one is always nice to see. We said, hey, this is going to be more of a solo lane focused game. I think we got to remember about the Ryze is he's a lot more of a like split push and side lane oriented champion rather than something that looks for these team fights, but still, FPX have a strong front line in the Nautilus, in the Volibear. They're going to have Senna, who's going to scale up, deal a lot of DPS later on in the game. And then Ryze has a ton of low cooldown, so does also put out a ton of DPS himself. Just going to be a bit more conscious of how you're positioning these fights.
One of the really interesting things is, despite the fact that obviously Doinb is known for his Ryze, it's a big pick for him. This is the first time he'll be playing it this entire split, so I'm not going to say he's going to be rusty. I don't expect him to not perform on it, but certainly it's not been a champion that's been in the meta as of recently. So I'm curious what it's going to look like here today, and especially with a Senna in the bottom lane, FPX maybe just looking towards scaling.
Well, we got to remember that when they did bring it back in playoffs, it was a complete swap from the style they played in spring regular season. And that's when they got 3-0'd by JDG. So it wasn't a strategy that particularly panned out. And we look at what DMO picked up as well, right? They have very strong team fighting as well. They have scaling elements in the Cassiopeia at least. So if FPX's comp does just want to run in, which obviously that's what it's suited for, running forward, Twila's going to have a great time in these fights.
It's worth mentioning as well that DMO around that mid game are going to hit like a truck with a Renekton in the top side, with the Kalista down in the bottom lane as well for xubin. They would love to be fighting around those dragons and around the mid game.
I was kind of expecting Giles. I was kind of excited, but
they always tell me if there's Giles.
Oh, do they? They never tell me if there's Giles. So, but I do like the point you're making about the mid game, because to me that definitely feels like DMO's strongest point. When I look at how the early games will work out, we at least look at how lanes interact with jungle, and it definitely feels like Tian will have more setup, right? You have a bit of lockdown coming in from the Ryze if he can, you know, get off the spell flux, then hit the W to get the root. You have some setup in bot lane coming in from the Nautilus, but we don't really expect a lot of fighting to be around there up against the Kalista. And then Volibear, always a strong, you know, fighting 2v2 skirmishing top laner. So we could see Tian impact these lanes early on, but especially around that one item mark, or even around when Dragon just first comes up, we can see DMO use their bot lane pressure and try to force these skirmishes where the Kalista and the Sett Renekton are going to be extremely strong.
It's kind of interesting to me at the top side of the map here that GimGoon opted into the Volibear, because Renekton was one of the first champions that we saw come through as an answer to this Volibear in the top lane. For those of you that weren't watching a few weeks ago, when Volibear first came out, the reworked version, we saw it pretty much exclusively in the top lane in the LPL while it was played in the jungle elsewhere. Now we're seeing it a lot more in the jungle. I was expecting it to go to Tian because Renekton was that answer.
Yeah, me too. And the thing is, we have seen it be able to do quite well in the early levels. We've also seen him opt for the press the attack, so going to do much better in short trades than Chelizi, who has the Conquer. But we've seen, especially once Chelizi can hit that level 6 mark, maybe come back with something like a Phage, that's when Renekton really starts shining in that matchup.
Nice play here from Twila already to zone Doinb away from the wave. Going to be able to just try and deny as much CS as possible. And that's important when you're playing against the Ryze, because Ryze is going to look great later on into the game. But while you have the opportunity, before he gets his tier, before he can spam his spells, get some damage down.
And that's why we did see him start with the Mana Crystal, because Ryze really struggles with mana issues early on. So getting that tier as fast as possible really mitigate a lot of that, the early game struggle with waves.
So I believe what the graphic is saying basically is if FPX can get a win today, they're going to be on 9 wins. EDG are already on 8 losses. So if FPX does win, EDG are out of the playoff picture. I can't read Chinese. I do know what the standings look like, though.
Shame on you, Munchables. You've lived here for how many months and you still can't read Chinese?
I know. It's embarrassing, honestly. It's only the most difficult to learn language on the planet.
Really interesting that UE chooses to shadow mid-level 2. I mean, Twila is pushed up, so maybe like anticipating that Tian can look for a gank, and even Xiaopeng wouldn't have been too far off if they could stall some time, but does get a ward down, so they are going to spot out Tian if he does look for a play around mid lane.
And I am curious, I mean, you mentioned Tian looking for plays around the map. I'm curious if he will at all, honestly, because obviously he's on the Lee Sin, which can be quite aggressive as Lee Sin, but look at the lanes that he has, right? The Volibear, not going to do amazingly into the Renekton, although that is an option for them. But Ryze in the mid lane and Senna in the bottom side, these are not lanes that you really want to be ganking for. You want to just leave them alone to farm up.
Yeah, the thing about the Ryze we highlighted, at least you do have some CC, some lockdown. Ooh.
Oh, nicely done there, Tian. Sneaks in and grabs himself the Scuttle Crab. And we were talking about this top lane matchup. It is not going how I was expecting.
Well, remember we talked about in the very early levels, Volibear does fine. And this is why I remember... Ooh.
Oh my goodness, no way. Goon! One auto away. He was on like 10 HP.
GimGoon's playing great. We also need to remember, ooh. So Xiaopeng just
I thought that was Tian for a split second there.
But, you know, going back to the point, I remember when this matchup came out at first, me and you were actually casting it. We came in saying, okay, well, Renekton is going to be an answer. Then we'd constantly see the Volibear solo kill the Renekton early on. And again, in the first few levels, it's strong. With the rune choice, it is strong. It won't be about until that, you know, level 6 mark where we really start seeing the Renekton be able to come out ahead in extended trades, stack up that Conqueror. But we also need to remember Chelizi is one of our weakest top laners in the LPL.
I think that's one of the things to bear in mind is that we saw Volibear win this matchup a few times. This is not like a hard counter. This is like an answer. You still have to know the matchup to be able to pull it off. One thing that will help is a second Doran's Blade that Chelizi has gone for there. He's looking around the bottom side, though. Actually, Hook goes through onto Yui. Obviously, he's tanky. How tanky is he, though? The route is going to go wide. It should mean that Yui can flash away to safety.
Still, that was a nice sidestep coming out from Yui, making sure that he, you know, potentially didn't go down. And really creative gank coming from Tian. They obviously pinged out the ward. Oh, jeez.
That was a good effort, though.
That was close.
Tian read him, though. Figured out what was going on, was going to be able to survive off of that one, and decides that now is the moment to start the Dragon off.
Look at Chelizi, though. Chelizi has roamed down to mid, so DMO with 5 members on this side of the map.
All right, in we go. Facebreaker onto 2, but Yui misses the Zenith Blade. LWX flashing out of the pit. DMO have taken control, but everybody's arriving from FPX. They're surrounding from both sides here as Crisp looking to start the fight. Steps in onto everyone. They have to try keeping him safe, and he flashes out, but Chelizi chases him down. Now Tian answers 1 kill of his own and has to jump away from the fray. GimGoon flashes out to safety. Doinb doing some good damage, but it's not quite enough. 1 for 1 so far. But importantly, Xiaopeng died.
Yeah, exactly. So now FPX potentially could be the ones to... actually, I didn't notice how low Tian is. Tian's going to have to reset as well, but... I thought things looked really dicey for FPX because LWX had to burn both summoners so early on in the fights where we look at XUBin. XUBin even still has his flash, but still, FPX did a great job of kind of like kiting and skirting around the fight, not fully committing, allowing LWX to deal all the damage necessary. And 1 for 1 overall feels fine for FPX. We highlighted, do have the Ryze, do have the Senna.
Yeah, that's one of the things that is always hilarious to me. Whenever I watch FPX, I'm like, oh, well, they've got some scaling aspects to their composition. They probably want to forego some of these early Dragon fights. No. This is FPX. They're going to fight. They're going to skirmish with you.
And we do got to remember, right? They do... Ooh.
Hang on, GimGoon's in trouble here. He's found himself in a 2v1, doesn't have flash available, and he's running towards the wrong tower. They're going to TP into the play, and GimGoon survived long enough to pull this off. The Haymaker's not enough. And somehow FPX pull that off.
A great read by FPX, right? Because this is one of the strengths that Ryze does have over Cassiopeia. Obviously much easier to react to side lane plays with that Realm Warp available. Gonna lose out some CS in the mid lane, but hey, you know, you just got another kill onto Tian. He's now gonna start snowballing across the map. GimGoon didn't go down. And Chelizi at least looked like 2 or 3 CS of EXP, so not going to be too bad. But now the wave is going to push back to GimGoon, which can be even better. Maybe we can see now Tian start setting up a gank for topside.
Yeah, Tian got himself 2 kills already this game as well, importantly. And when we're talking about the early game strengths that FPX have, Lee Sin represents a lot of that early game strength. So him having the kills, not too shabby at all for them. So now the question is, what does FPX do next? Because we set it up as a scaling composition, but from what we've seen so far, they are not going to rest on their laurels.
Well, and the thing we need to remember as well, especially now that Ryze has picked up both the tier and also has 2 mana crystals on top of that, is it shores up a lot of his weakness in the early game in the sense of he's going to pretty much be able to blindly clear the wave now and be able to at least react and support Tian in a lot of these skirmishes.
Chelizi is not having a fun time in this matchup. This is meant to be a good matchup for Renekton, but it is not looking good right now. GimGoon's so far ahead with that Phage, and you can see it in these trades. Twila at least going to grab himself that blue buff, and you can see there is a pretty significant CS lead in the mid lane in favor of Twila, but that's because Doinb's been around the map roaming.
And exactly, this is what we talked about just now with the mana coming out, right? He's going to be able to just clear these waves, support Tian in making these decisions. We do see that DMO obviously see this because they have the control ward, and they're actually posturing to look for the fight.
Xiaopeng moving in. Doinb going to try and just zone him away, but he's in for the smite fight. Tian gets it and flashes out over the wall. Dawning Shadow across the team. xubin gets out with his life, and Yue should get away as well. Twila with a grounding to keep him safe.
And we didn't see how xubin got so low. I'm actually surprised because it looks like FPX just came out ahead in the straight 2v2. FPX pick up the objective. They force DMO back, and that feels like a nice win for FPX.
It feels like Senna is a lot stronger than she was previously. Obviously, with the fasting Senna, my mentality towards this champion has been very slow in the early game, scaling up. But the more I'm watching with the farming Senna again, the more it feels like she has a lot of presence in the lane.
When this champion switched back to this mode, I actually talked to some teams about it. I'm like, hey, why are we getting the swap? And that was the reason. They're like, hey, with a lot of AD carry nerfs coming through, there aren't a lot of things that feel strong enough in lane to contest some other champions. So being able to get these items down faster and be able to contest in early laning phase and in some early skirmishes feels much better. I
mean, just think back to the lethality version, right, that we saw while it was farming as well. It was insane damage, even in the early stages of the game. And obviously, we have seen scaling iterations with the IE and whatnot. Now we're seeing this kind of hybrid where you go for the Mana Moon, you go for things like the Black Cleaver as well.
Yeah, that old version definitely felt like a strong early laning champion that had like a bit of a trough in the mid game once people start getting armor to deal with your lethality. But obviously, the more souls you did stack up, you would come on insanely strong in the late game.
It's interesting to see the evolution of that champion, but Chelizi is going to find himself the 1v1.
He's forcing heavy too.
Actually, no, this isn't a 1v1. He's found nothing. All he's found himself is in trouble right now because Chelizi is stunned, and that means the Sonic Wave can go through. Tian now with a hat trick, but that's going to be Xiaopeng with 2 stuns in. Facebreaker back into the play, or Showstopper for that matter. Tian kicks one out, gets over. That was beautiful from Tian. Just about gets away with his life as well.
And this is what I was going to say. It actually makes sense that Chelizi was trading. His whole team was on top side to where LWX was still in the bot lane, just getting a bit too far ahead of himself, but still DMO there to answer. And DMO should be able to pick up this Herald.
Really nicely done here from DMO, but FPX still hovering around. I don't think they're going to contest in the end. Tian's going to finish off his recall, and that is going to be Xiaopeng grabbing that. But importantly as well, Xiaopeng has been looking pretty good on this set during these plays.
And like we said, this is first time picking up this champion this split, so definitely unfamiliar territory for him. Now it's going to be interesting to see where he chooses to drop this Herald. We always guess it's going to be the mid lane. At least I always guess it will be. I think that's probably the best place, unless you can outright drop a tower on one of your side lanes, you know, if you already have gotten 1 or 2 plates down. And they actually already have a plate in the mid lane from all the times that Twila's been left alone with that turret.
Yeah, I mean, Cassiopeia has no issues shoving in the way. We can see now, obviously, that the top laners have decided to shift to become bot laners here, which is a bit of a weird one since it's Dragon up next in 2 minutes, and there is no Rift Herald.
It makes sense because both bot lanes were already on top side, so just made sense in that moment to send your top laners down so your AD carries aren't losing out on, you know, gold in EXP. I do expect both bot lanes to clear and swap back. We already see Kalista and Leona potentially heading towards mid, but actually, xubin going back top side.
Yep, so they're just going to commit to it for now, at least the lane swap towards the top side. The big question that it opens up for me is, with this Infernal Drake coming up next, who has the advantage? Because between these 2 top laners, I'm starting to lean towards GimGoon.
I agree, and especially with the advantage onto Tian. Despite the, again, not really trough, but we look at Doinb's items, right? Doinb doesn't have any combat stats, just does have a bunch of HP, mana, bit of resistances.
Technically, mana is a combat stat for
True,
Ryze.
You're right. It is a combat stat for Ryze. But point is, I feel like Tian really is going to be the difference maker in this fight, to where I expect FPX to opt into a dragon fight.
I mean, we could look at literally any composition, and I would expect FPX to opt into a dragon fight. It's kind of just the way that this team seems to function, especially with Doinb, usually on things like that Galio. But even with this Ryze, he doesn't play it slow. He doesn't play it for the scaling.
Yeah, we see actually being threatened right now by DMO.
Good respect here from Doinb. Realizes something's going on, flashes away. But great from DMO here to set up a play. They're going to get the Herald down in the mid lane. They might be able to finish his tower off, but with Tian off on the side, DMO going to respect the fact that they could have stepped a little too far.
Yep, and we see Tian already in the rivers. Ooh.
No, they haven't stepped too far. They want this fight. Tian going to dash over the wall as GimGoon makes his way over to the play as well. In they go, Tian onto Xiaopeng. Twila going to be able to defer it.
Chelizi just finished his Black Cleaver. Yes, TP could join the fight at any moment. That could be a huge momentum shift for the side of DMO.
And we already talked about Renekton in these dragon fights. This is his ideal scenario. Gets that Dominus up, stacking up Black Cleaver on everyone.
Yeah, and we do see there is no Fate's Call coming out from xubin, so that can be a bit dicey, but Doinb's steeping in, and FPX do want to contest.
They're going to go for this one. UA is there. Doinb going to shove this wave out in the bottom side first so he can move over. And at least there'll be some minions lost from the side of DMO. But they're not going anywhere either. They're moving over from the mid lane. Do you have a bit of a flank going on for FPX here?
We got to see if Tian and GimGoon can get on top of Twila and xubin, as we talked about.
Xiaopeng head splashes forward, bit of damage on towards FPX from this dragon. This is going to be a 50-50 smite. I could just feel it here. Chelizi onto the dragon as Chris gets in on the back line. In goes GimGoon, but he's stunned and just bursts down with a showstopper onto the back line. Xiaopeng looks fantastic this game. UA jumps in as well, and DMO find the perfect fight.
And FPX almost got on top of Twila and xubin, but Twila coming out with the perfect ultimate, making sure GimGoon doesn't provide any threat. Then the showstopper coming out from Xiaopeng, as you highlighted, looking great. And I mean, we already talked about that FPX shouldn't necessarily want to look for these early dragon fights. It just feels like with the advantage they got, they feel comfortable doing it. It was execution heavy on how they'd be able to come out ahead. DMO executed better.
And like ultimately, they've got things like a Renekton, things like this Kalista that love to fight in this scenario, but Twila's ult especially denying the play from FPX.
Exactly. Even the dredge line missing for Chris felt massive, right? If you can hit that dredge line, if you can then combo that in with GimGoon jumping as well, maybe Tian finding her out on top of the carries. Twila and xubin were both just standing by themselves. Like it was a great angle. I can understand how they were looking for that fight, but DMO playing it better, DMO being on better spikes. And now we even seeing Rod of Ages actually coming out for both mid laners.
Yeah, we're going to have a bit of scaling. Let's take another look from Xiaopeng's perspective, because I feel like he was the MVP here.
Yep, we did see Dredgeline Mish, and there's that Twila ultimate coming in strong. We do see Xiaopeng is able to reposition to get GimGoon into the rest of the members, and now Crisp is left awkwardly in the middle of the team because, I mean, FPX did full-on commit to that fight. And now DMO looking like they're in a solid position, 1K gold lead.
Feels fantastic for DMO, and obviously, they've drafted the composition that does want to be ahead, so now the onus is on them to keep the ball rolling. No Drake for another 3.5 minutes, but that Herald will be coming up shortly. You see Twila moving up to the top side here to clear the wave, but xubin and Yui already on the correct side of the map, and teleport is available for both top laners.
A thing I want us to keep our attention on, too, is in 4 minutes when Baron comes up, because not only Kalista, but Cassiopeia, too, right? These two champions burn Baron so fast, so some kind of cheeky Baron play can definitely come out from DMO, or even one small pick onto Tian after the 20-minute mark equals Baron for DMO's composition.
And Tian has already been caught out of position a couple of times this game. Fate's Call used very defensively here.
Xiaopeng.
Yui's going to go back in, gets a nice little bit of a siege chain in here. Xiaopeng steps into the backline, showstopper only onto one target, but it's Crisp and he's getting burst down by everybody. The Haymaker comes in to finish that kill off, and now suddenly we find ourselves with DMO getting themselves 1 kill, but their health bars are low and they might be forced away from the tower anyway.
Yep, FPX are going to threaten.
Twila's still in the top lane, by the way. He just never was part of any of this.
Yeah, so they're going to end up trading, and ultimately DMO still picked up 1 kill in the mid lane. Ooh, Tian might be too far.
Tian is trying to find himself a kill onto Chelizi, chasing this one through. He's still on full health, but the Realm Warp in. FPX are making plays around the map, as they always do.
And that was so smart, right? We see it. It kind of looks like Tian's over-aggressive. Looks like Tian's the one getting caught out. Great Realm Warp coming from Doinb to actually sandwich the members of DMO between their two sides, and they pick up a bunch more kills. And this is why we look at FPX with this Ryze, right? The Realm Warp just creates so many creative opportunities to, force numbers advantages, get pressure in side lane, just so many plays available.
So I have a question for you, Lyric. Was that on purpose? Is that a bait from Tian being like, oh, I'm out of position, and then they realm warp in to force the play?
I honestly feel like it is. I just can't imagine him going that deep, just thinking like, oh, well, the other members of DMO can, of course, come here first. We do see this play. I was already looking at the position of Xiaopeng. Looked phenomenal. He was definitely going to find a good showstopper coming in. The members of FPX do tunnel down to bot side, which is good for them, but still, they do catch out Chris. They have the members here. They have the damage to take him down.
Yeah, nice little pick to start the play off. The real play, though, is what happened afterwards. So keep your eyes on Tian here. After they go for the tower, he somewhat oversteps, but it was all a con.
It definitely was, because again, he knew that DMO would be able to follow first. They forced them out. They used the Realm Warp in. And actually, on the left side of our screens right now, we do see the DMO are picking up Rift Herald. which is nice. We talked about, hey, these two champions do so well at burning down these neutral monsters. Epic monsters, as they are called.
They're pretty epic, dude.
Yes, they are.
So let's take stock of where we're at in the game right now, because gold is almost exactly even, but Chelizi, he cannot get back to his tower here. Slice and dice over, but the rest of the squad's moved in. Rune Prism is there. Chelizi, I mean, I was going to say he overstepped. He barely left his tower.
Yeah, that was just, you know, nice play coming out from FPX. Obviously, they have pressure through bot lane right now with GimGoon pushing out, but hey, DMO are looking mid.
They're like, all right, if you guys are going to make a play out to our top laner in the bot side, well, we've got a Rift Tower. So we'll take your mid tier 2. Tian is going to try and find this flank.
It is a 4v5. Doinb doesn't have Realm Warp yet, but he has TP.
It's going to be a 4v5 now that TP's come on through. Xiaopeng doing some work to CC people, gets the shield out of the Haymaker, needs to get over to his team, but GimGoon trying to make his way in. Flash for the bear slap. Tian grabs yet another kill. UA pulled in, but the fate's called to get him to safety. Twila now the target. Does still have the petrifying gaze. We'll see if he can get a big ult off. Tian shut down here with Twila grabbing a whole bunch of gold there for himself to be. Having to back away. So it's going to be 1-for-1 jungler for jungler here.
I mean, that feels great for the side of DMO, right? Because DMO were the ones caught out in the open. 5 men versus 4. FPX try, but great W coming out from Twila.
And worth mentioning, Tian, I didn't see how big his bounty was, but he was 5-0-2 when he died. That is a lot of gold that Twila just grabbed for himself.
And picking up another dragon. Actually, the Riptail charge got off in the mid lane. So DMO actually feeling pretty good after that play. Feeling great.
Fantastic. They got themselves a Cloud Drake as well, which they're a little bit sad that it's going to be Cloud Soul this game. They could have done with an Infernal Soul, could have done with even an Ocean Soul that could have been the option here. But ultimately, if you're DMO, you're against FPX here, having these kinds of little fights are definitely going to favor you. However, we keep talking about how DMO have this mid-game composition. We're getting towards the end of the mid-game here, and they're not ahead.
I mean, I feel like we're going to get to a point where hopefully, I'm going to assume for DMO, we get some kind of like massive skirmish for Baron where, you know, that's kind of where all their eggs are in that basket. We are seeing, right, we expect Doinb to keep scaling up, going to be a threat in the side lane. FPX doing a great job of playing around that right now, keeping this 2-man core hovering while LWX just catches waves in mid.
So let's actually recap with the carries as well, down in the bottom side, because as you mentioned, LWX over in the mid lane here. We were talking about Senna builds earlier on in the day. This is going to be the Black Cleaver build that we've been seeing more recently with the Glacial Augment, with the Mana Moon stacking up as well. On the other side, Xubin is falling pretty significantly behind, despite the fact that obviously they're going to be on a similar amount of gold here. The items are much cheaper for LWX.
Yep, that is one of the things about Senna and just champions that could build things like Mana Moon, even lethality, you know, if you guys want to index into that, is it feels
Glaive's too strong, man. Glaive is so cheap.
I mean, like serrated dirt compared to BF Sword, like it just feels too strong.
It feels more impactful than a BF Sword in a lot of scenarios, and it's 200 gold cheaper somehow. But one thing I will say is BF Sword scales a lot better into the later stage.
It's kind of funny we're talking about these two items because we actually don't have...
Neither of them are in the game right now.
Neither of them are in the game, but
yeah, that's true.
Hey, we're just airing our grievances because we're allowed to do that.
As somebody who's built a lot of lethality items over however long lethality items have been out, they are definitely too strong, in my opinion. Especially in solo queue. In a team environment, not so much, because you can outscale it, you can play for the late game. In solo queue, you don't really get to just play for the late game.
It's true.
When Zoe's running it down all game, there's not a lot you can do about that.
Hey, but when FPX is doing Baron, what can DMO do about this?
Well, they don't even seem to be aware that it's happening, so not a whole lot right now.
We talked about DMO having the comp that can go for this play. Ryze is also a DPS mage as well. Does Baron extremely fast. Well, not extremely fast.
GimGoon is playing distraction on the bottom side of the map right now. Chelizi and Xiaopeng aboard it. Hook, line, and sinker. The Scryer's orb comes out, but it's way too little and it's way too late.
I honestly can't believe we just had FPX
just
force a 2-man Baron.
Nothing happened for this
DMO, no idea.
Like, absolutely nothing happened for them to really set this up, aside from GimGoon was like, hey, come and gank me.
And this is where Doinb's really going to thrive, right? He's on the rise. He wants to be pushed in on the side lane. No one's going to be able to really answer him. They're going to have to commit multiple members to where then FPX can win out on the opposite side of the map. But I expect Tian to just keep shadowing Doinb, eventually look for these picks onto Twila.
The really funny thing to me is that this is one of those Barons where FPX are not in a position where they can really start to siege hard and push for a win here. Like, we're still at an even state, but this is one of those Barons that on paper just gives you 1,500 gold. Straight up, this is just, even if they get no towers off the back of it, it's just a gold advantage. Fantastic.
It's going to be interesting to see, again, how they play around side lanes. We talked about Tian hovering for Doinb. That looks like the play they're going to make. And Twila, if they had known he was here, Doinb had the Realm Warp, they could have looked for a play, but obviously was in Fog of War. Oh, they're still going to go for it.
He's not in Fog of War anymore, and the Realm Warp comes on through. Tian is going to be on that one. He's going to look for the kick. Nice dodge on the Petrifying Gaze, but now he could be the one in trouble. Chelizi gets the stun out of the TP. Nice answer from DMO.
Yeah, good response. They find the kill. Oh,
flash out as well, but Crisp dodges the face breaker. That was a smooth as butter blast cone right there.
That was nice, and this is what we talked about, right? DMO commit on one side. Well, guess what? FPX can push their advantage on the other, so still going to pick up a tower for GimGoon and increase this gold lead. And Dragon's coming up in 44 seconds. FPX should be the team to have pressure to pick that one up.
I have to say, coming into this series, I was not expecting it to be this close. I was not expecting DMO to be able to answer in the ways that they have, and sure, they lose a tower here, but the fact that they are answering the plays that FPX are making around the map is fantastic.
Yeah, and we see here, you already talked about, you know, nice job not getting hit by that Petrifying Gaze, but still not in a good position, already half HP. Xiaopeng coming out with the Chilling Smite. Chelizi TP's in to get the kill. This was also really interesting where, like you said, Crisp dodging out on the face breaker, starts with the dredge line, flashes away, and just very smooth blast cone, like you said.
Cool guys, don't look at explosions as they zip over the wall. Now Dragon once again. DMO, they would love to grab this for themselves if they can get themselves that Cloud Soul. That's their way to win this game, really. If they can make that Elder Dragon spawn, find ways to grab that, they're just going to burn this dragon down and aren't going to be able to smite it away.
Oh.
Tian went in way too late for the smite. Now there's a stun onto Crisp as well. This is the snowball that they need. Dawning Shadow across the team, but Crisp pulls himself to safety here. Yui with the Fate's Call gets himself out. And it looks like the rest of the squad just going to retreat.
GimGoon has ultimate.
That he does. Doinb is not waiting for someone else to engage. He's going in on the machine gun Ryze. Chelizi stuns him up, and xubin will survive for now. As Twila looking to clear up with the rest of FPX. LWX flashes away as Doinb gets out with his life as well. Double kill for Twila. And they're looking for GimGoon, but he flashes in to finish the kill. Chelizi stuns up the bear, but GimGoon is absolutely monstrous at this point in the game. Gets himself a double, and he's looking for a third one as well. Xubin has nothing he can do about it. The Realm Warp comes in. Doinb grabs the kill, and now xubin realizes he's stuck around way too long. GimGoon wants that triple, slaps him down and grabs the kill.
And it looked good at first, but ultimately DMO end up acing, end up acing the side of DMO. That's why we highlighted how much more comfortable FPX is as a team when GimGoon is back on the roster.
Who says Khan is the carry top laner? This guy is carrying the team fights right now.
And you know, starting off, I actually don't understand how FPX didn't have control for that dragon because they still had Baron up, right? But no waves were pushed out for FPX. So, you know, no waves are pushed out. DMO can easily just walk into dragon, take that one up. Tian gets a bit too aggressive, as we're going to see here. Now I want to keep my eyes on GimGoon because we do see the Leona ultimate coming out and catching Chris. And like you highlighted, the Senna actually hits decently hard at this point in the game. DMO kind of disengaging. Surprisingly, GimGoon doesn't engage with his ultimate. Doinb's the one that flashes over. You said the machine gun Ryze coming out isn't able to get the damage off onto xubin to finish him off, is forced back. And then Twila aggressively going forward just sets up GimGoon so much room to deal all this damage.
I mean, Twila saw the miracle play. He did get 2 kills for himself, but this top laner is monstrous at this point. There was no one able to protect Twila. And then GimGoon could just run rampant. Like, the healing out of his W is just so terrifying.
Yep. And then Doinb able to follow up with the Realm Warp as well. Sadly, xubin not able to kite that one out. But hey, we highlighted DMO are on Soul Point. Gold still, okay, 3K gold in FPX's favor, and we have talked about scaling elements, but hey, this Cassiopeia is also large. This is also always a condition, especially with the fact we're seeing FPX's comp is running into DMO. That's where Cassiopeia thrives.
And we just saw Twila grab himself a double kill during that fight. And sure, he got shut down by GimGoon, but a couple more items on. GimGoon's not going to be able to 1v1 Twila anymore. We saw Knights 1v3 a couple of weeks ago. That was against the Volibear.
And he now does have the Leandry, so he's going to do much better up against GimGoon, you know, stacking health. And the fact you have GLP as well, you're going to get the increased damage coming out as well, since, you know, he will be impaired.
So the question will be about the setup for these fights now. So let's talk, because obviously DMO a little bit behind in gold here, and not really ahead when it comes to scaling either. I was going to ask what the win condition is. Apparently it's just fight for DMO. They're going in. Facebreaker, not going to do too much as UA gets into the team. Dawning Shadow across everyone, and DMO have realized they're not winning right now. They've got to back away.
I'm also glad the fight happened like this. I want to highlight DMO's comp is kind of weird, because the fact that it all revolves around Twila, you want the enemy to come into you. You don't want to be the ones engaging. Which sounds weird when you have a Leona, Renekton, and Kalista on your team.
But you know what? FPX is just going to bait this fight out with the Baron, and now they get to just do whatever they want. Twila is going to answer for one, but there's some damage coming out from Xiaopeng. Great CC across the team. Twila still surviving, flashes out to safety. GimGoon will finish him off, but xubin still going strong. Tian trying to get out. It's only the bot laners left for DMO.
And that was a massive ult coming out from Xiaopeng, setting up for Twila and xubin to deal all this damage.
What am I witnessing right now, Lyric? This is the 17th place team against the world champions. How is DMO winning?
Xiaopeng, Twila. I mean, this fight was so chaotic. It went by so fast. We see the Dredge line coming in onto the Renekton. Christmas isn't tanky at all. We do see GimGoon jump in, but we're going to see a great showstopper coming out from Xiaopeng. Twila gets on, not Twila, Tian gets on the backline. Doesn't matter though, Twila has so much damage at burning these frontliners from FPX as we highlighted, and xubin was left free to just deal damage that whole fight.
Dream scenario for that Kalista. You see the damage from the mid laners as well. There was an ult that came out from Twila there. It only hit onto Doinb. Had that not hit Doinb, I think that's a much more convincing fight for FPX, and maybe gets them the Baron.
And I feel like those 2 kills at the last fight on Dragon were so massive to get him that Leandry's Torment, because we're seeing how much damage he's now able to do up against GimGoon.
I love that you can see, when you look at the mid laners, their scores are almost identical in terms of builds where they're at. They're almost identical as well.
I do want to highlight, though, that we saw in that fight, as we talked about earlier, Xiaopeng taking the big tank out of the fight, allowing Twila and xubin to deal all the free damage.
This would be solved for DMO if they can move in and contest here. Xiaopeng flashes over the wall, gets onto Tian here, but Tian gets the dragon. No soul for DMO. It's only going to be a stun onto Crisp, and this is looking good for FPX. Stuns across the team here as Xiaopeng gets onto the backline. Great Facebreaker, and xubin is dancing around the plate. LWX moving back in though. UE it's not so tanky anymore as Eclipse has run out, and now onto both tanks. LWX is free firing. His Chelizi can't hold everybody off. xubin doing his very best, but he's slowed, he's stunned, and he's taken down. UE will fall as well. And you got Xiaopeng trying to be sneaky, trying to escape here. Hex Splash over the wall, but Hex splashes into his death.
And there was the problem we saw with DMO, right? The other 4 members run forward, while Twila does not. So Twila got left in the middle of Tian and GimGoon. Twila went down so early on, it didn't matter now, because sure, xubin is still pretty large, does a lot of damage himself. Once GimGoon gets on him with that Q, CCs him down, FPX have more damage to win out the fight.
I don't know how this is such a close, exciting game right now, but FPX is just about edging it out in these fights.
And let's be honest, Munchables, we came into today saying, look at these series, look at this series. This is going to be a 20-minute game for FPX. DMO looking awesome.
Yeah, coming out of the woodwork here. They're desperate for their second win on the standings. But unfortunately for them, it's not quite working out. FPX are going to grab themselves their second Baron of the game here.
And Doinb has a death cap.
Yeah. Doinb is looking pretty strong. And Twila not going to be able to grab anything more off the back of that fight. Obviously went down right at the very start of things. We are getting to a point now where the scaling conversation does come into account.
Oh, yeah.
Because Senna, very much online. Ryze, more than online at this point. And then you've got xubin, who's really going to start to fall off. We saw towards the end of that fight, just wasn't really doing the damage.
And I mean, I'm glad that you highlighted the Senna especially because we actually haven't talked much about LWX because I feel like he's really benefit from the chaos of the skirmishes his team's been providing, not necessarily him doing some kind of outplay and positioning, but he's still, dealing a ton of damage, getting off maximum DPS
his
on the
shadows are great as well.
Yeah,
in these clustered fights, perfect.
He's involved in 15 out of the 20 kills right now, so him and GimGoon, I feel like have really just been doing so much work in these team fights.
And one of the most important things to consider with Senna as well, when we talk about scaling, it's not just down to items. The range increases with the souls as well. So the longer this goes on, the safer LWX is to sit miles away from the fighter and just hammer away.
And, we are now showing the difference in items for mid laners, so that Death Camp definitely going to be doing tons of work for the side of FPX. And something we're not seeing on our screen right now, GimGoon also did finally pick up an adaptive helm, which is going to be extremely valuable up against Cassiopeia.
So now the question is, what does FPX do next? They've still got a minute and a half on this Baron, and we already talked about it earlier. They can do excellently to set up inside lanes.
Yep, we do see them just doing this right. GimGoon hovering in between, and Doinb just putting so much pressure, forcing Twila, and potentially even another members. We see Chelizi constantly hovering down to make sure that Doinb can't find these advantages, which is allowing for FPX to, pseudo siege on this mid turret with the cannon.
DMO looking for the miracle play here, but I'm not sure GimGoon is the best target. He's just going to leap away, and he's tanky as all hell at this point.
Okay, so they're gonna. I expect this
because making a chain of noises.
I just see Tian ward hopping. I'm like, oh my god, is something gonna happen? Because things keep happening, Munchables.
Yes,
and they always start with Tian. It always starts with Tian doing something that.
Or Xiaopeng.
Yeah,
Xiaopeng's been pretty proactive too.
It always starts with one of our junglers doing something maybe they shouldn't. Maybe it turns out awesome anyway. But FPX are going to keep scaling. And keep sieging as well.
That's just so FPX as well, that they just make these things happen. Even if it's not necessarily the most optimal play, they're just going to go for the play. And I absolutely love to watch that. You see up at the top side now, it's going to be another tier 2 going down as FPX continue to build this advantage.
And it's interesting that they do it right now because we see xubin and Xiaopeng's ultimates are down, so Doinb was bot side, had no TP, so this would have been a nice window where you could say, okay, everyone just 5-man top side, kill this 3-man core, but a lot of the tools weren't there for them to do it.
But also they wanted to reset for this dragon as well. It's up in 40 seconds. And, ideally, they want to take this not just because they want themselves a Cloud Dragon. They also want to deny the soul, but stop Elder from spawning. Elder spawning is one of the few ways that DMO have back into this game.
Yeah, I agree. Because I actually feel like the soul itself at this point is not impactful at all.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. It's going to come down to getting that Elder Drake up sooner, which is, that always makes the game a bit of a coin toss.
Exactly. And let's bear in mind, basically every dragon this game has been a 50-50 spite, so I agree, FPX, don't let the Elder spawn.
I mean, DMO has won out on a lot of those 50-50s.
All right, dragon spawn in 3 seconds time. What do you got, Xiaopeng? This is your moment to grab yourself that soul. No, it's not. You don't have time. You're not close enough. It's gone down. FPX now on soul point as well. But importantly, they buy themselves at least 10 more minutes before Elder can spawn.
I mean, we see, especially on both sides of the rift, Ryze and Cassiopeia, the amount of DPS they're able to put out in such a short amount of time rival AD carries. They're two champions that definitely stand out from any other mid lane mage in that aspect.
So we reset once more, as we're headed towards a 40-minute game here, Lyric, to start off our day. DMO, they're not going to let the fact that they are in 17th in the standings deter them from playing their damn hearts out. And I love to witness it. But FPX are 6,000 gold ahead at this stage. We've already said they have scaling advantages. And Baron's going to be up in a minute and a half. It feels like that's the next port of call.
Yeah, it definitely is, and we're going to see Doinb go down to the bot lane because FTPF is going to put a lot of pressure on this inhibitor, so you're going to expect DMO to have to send 2 members to deal with them in bot lane. That's going to open up a potential, creative play, either, finding a pick in the enemy jungle or just starting up the Baron outright.
I mean, knowing FPX, starting up the Baron outright is kind of their go-to play. We saw it literally in 20 minutes in this game where they're just like, hey, they don't have vision. Let's give it a go.
That's the thing, too, because only one member of DMO has TP. So we expect Chelizi to answer in the bot side, but then they're either going to have to send, Xiaopeng or even Twila to come answer as a 2-man core. And not both of them are going to be able to get over to the Baron if FPX look for that, but FPX just abusing DMO's position in topside jungle.
FPX just have the inside track in the mid lane here. They're going to be able to shove this wave under. And as we mentioned, LWX has incredibly long range, so he can poke the tower away. Managed to get a third of the tower's health there, just for free.
Yep, and I mean, this is going to go a bit slower than we expected. Of course, there is no Baron up yet, so actually, FPX, there really is nothing to play for right now.
If you need a quick nap, you've got 20 seconds. So get a couple of Zs in, come back in 20 seconds time, Baron's going to be up. And that's when we expect FPX to really put their foot on the accelerator. Doinb has TP even if he's in the bottom side. Twila does not, so he's got to get Slytherin over.
Yep, and we just keep expecting to see this 1-4 setup that we talked about. Doinb's going to keep pressuring. He's going to draw the 2-man. We're going to see either this cheeky Baron play or them, force the, 4v3 around the Baron pit.
One thing that is worth mentioning is Senna is not fast at Baron. Nobody else on the team of FPX is fast at Baron. So with Doinb on the bottom side of the map, they actually don't have that much Baron threat.
The thing they could do, though, which I've been kind of thinking about in my mind would be really funny, is, if Doinb just does go down there, pulls 2 members, backs off with Realm Orb, then himself TPs to the Baron, and then they have 5-man there.
The old switcheroo.
Exactly.
Let's see. I don't know. I think Doinb's just going to group up with the team. FPX are the kind of team that are more than willing to just go, hey, time to 5v5. And apparently so with DMO, because they're just going to start this Baron off for themselves.
And they do it so fast.
They certainly do. Xubin is going straight onto GimGoon here, trying to chase the bear out of the fight. Crisp goes in, but he misses his anchor there. It's going to be tanky for now, at very least. Daunting Shadow across the team, though. The Goon is here. Xiaopeng trying to play for healing, but Twila has already gone down, and that's a lot of the damage gone now. Yui falls as Tian's Guardian Angel. Xubin desperately trying to dance around the play. Will flash out, but gets taken down eventually. And Chelizi, the Croc's scary in the mid-game, but not anymore.
Yeah, Doinb can just TP bot, and honestly, FPX can just end.
We've seen it 100 times. They don't need the Baron. As soon as you give a team like FPX an advantage this late in the game, they're going to close things out. The TP came through. It's going to Realm Warp the minions underneath the towers here. And you can see he's got enough AP. He's got himself a Sorcerer's Pot as well. He's going to burn through these towers. The rest of the squad has arrived. And I have to say, after how close this game has been, that last team fight was pretty anticlimactic.
I do like how FPX are in it, though, right? Because